Caleb's head pounded as he gradually regained consciousness. The acrid scent of scorched circuitry filled his nostrils, mixing with an unfamiliar sweetness in the air. He blinked, attempting to focus on his surroundings. Lush jade foliage enveloped him, a stark contrast to the sterile white of his spacecraft. "What happened?" he muttered, memories flooding back. Alarms blaring, violent turbulence, his frantic attempt to land. Struggling to his feet, he stumbled as vertigo washed over him, his legs giving way. He tumbled down a small slope and splashed into clear water, the cold shocking his system and clearing the fog from his mind. As he surfaced, sputtering, a melodic laugh echoed nearby. "Do you always make such an entrance?" Wiping water from his eyes, Caleb's gaze fell on the source of the voice. His breath caught. Before him stood the most enchanting being he'd ever seen. Her skin was a mesmerizing shade of turquoise, smooth and flawless. Curves barely concealed by clothing made of living plants accentuated her figure, but it was her eyes that truly captivated him. Large, almond-shaped, and a striking shade of violet that shimmered with an inner light. Caleb stammered, realizing he was staring. He cleared his throat. "Not usually. I prefer to keep my landings dry." The turquoise woman's lips curled into an amused smile. "Well, you certainly brightened my afternoon. I'm Moza." She extended a delicate hand to help him up. Grateful for the assistance, Caleb took her hand. "Caleb." His words were cut short as his foot slipped on a mossy stone, and he tumbled forward, accidentally pulling Moza down with him. They surfaced together, and her laughter rang out again. "Oh my, you're really committed to making a splash, aren't you?" Caleb couldn't help but join her laughter, even as embarrassment heated his cheeks. "I swear I'm usually more coordinated than this." Moza's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm not sure I believe you, but it's certainly entertaining." She gracefully waded to the shore, droplets glistening on her turquoise skin. "Come on, clumsy human. Let's get you dried off before you drown." As Caleb followed, trying not to stare at how Moza's makeshift clothing clung to her form, he distracted himself by taking in their surroundings, a vibrant jungle paradise pulsing with life. "Where exactly am I?" he asked, wringing water from his flight suit. Moza tilted her head. "You don't know? This is Eden, at least that's what I call it. It's been my home for a while." Caleb furrowed his brow. "Eden? This planet isn't on any of our star charts. I was on a routine survey mission when my ship malfunctioned." Panic surged within him. "My ship? I need to get back to it." Moza's expression softened. "I'm afraid that might be difficult. I saw your vessel come down. It didn't look salvageable." Caleb's shoulders slumped. "Great. Just great. Stranded on an uncharted planet with no way to contact Earth." "Hey," Moza said gently, placing a comforting hand on his arm. The touch sent a surprising tingle through him. "It's not so bad here, I promise. And you're not alone anymore." She flashed him a dazzling smile. "Now, let's get you set up with shelter before night falls. The jaguar ants can be a bit feisty after dark." "The what?" Caleb asked, alarm evident in his voice. Moza just laughed and began leading the way into the jungle. "Oh, you'll see. Don't worry, they're mostly harmless." As they ventured through the dense foliage, Caleb found himself constantly distracted by Moza. She moved with an ethereal grace, effortlessly navigating the terrain. Every so often, she glanced back at him, those mesmerizing violet eyes causing his heart to skip a beat. "How did you end up here?" he asked, trying to focus on something other than her captivating gaze. Moza's step faltered for just a moment. "Oh, wrong turn at Andromeda." She flashed him a quick smile, but Caleb sensed there was more to the story. Before he could ask further, they reached a small clearing where a sturdy shelter made of interwoven vines and leaves stood at its center. "Home sweet home," Moza announced. "Well, one of them. I have a few set up around here." Caleb surveyed the structure, impressed despite himself. "This is incredible. You built this." Moza shrugged, a hint of pride in her voice. "When you're alone on a planet, you learn to be resourceful." She ducked inside and emerged with what looked like dried fruits and leaves. Hungry, Caleb's stomach growled in response. He accepted the offer gratefully, surprised by the explosion of flavors as he bit into the strange fruit. As night began to fall, Moza showed Caleb how to start a fire using local materials. He fumbled with the unfamiliar techniques, much to her amusement. "Here," she said, moving behind him, her arms encircling him as she guided his hands. "Like this." Caleb's breath hitched at her closeness, the scent of her, something like jasmine and starlight, filling his senses. He barely registered the spark that finally ignited the kindling. "There," Moza said softly, her breath warm against his ear. "Not so hard, is it?" She pulled away, leaving Caleb feeling strangely bereft. "Thanks. I'm usually better with technology than twigs." Moza settled by the fire, patting the ground next to her in invitation. "Tell me about your world, Caleb. What's it like among the stars?" As the night deepened, Caleb found himself opening up to this captivating alien woman. He told her about Earth, the colonies on Mars and Europa, and the wonders and terrors of deep space. Moza listened with rapt attention, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames. "It sounds incredible," she said wistfully. "I've always dreamed of seeing other worlds." "Maybe you will," Caleb replied, surprised by how much he wanted to show her the universe. "Once I figure out a way to contact my people, I'm sure we can arrange a trip." A bone-chilling roar cut through the night, startling Caleb into silence. Moza's eyes widened. "Jaguar ants," she whispered. "Quick, into the shelter!" They scrambled inside, Moza securing the entrance behind them. In the cramped space, Caleb became acutely aware of how close they were. Moza's body pressed against his as another roar sounded, closer this time. "What exactly are jaguar ants?" he whispered. "Imagine a jaguar crossed with a Tyrannosaurus rex," Moza replied, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Absolutely terrifying, but beautiful in their own way." Caleb's heart raced, though whether from fear or Moza's proximity, he couldn't say. "And you're sure we're safe in here?" Moza's violet eyes met his, a mischievous glint in their depths. "Mostly sure, but if not..." She leaned in close, her lips nearly brushing his ear. "At least we'll go out with a bang." Caleb's breath caught in his throat. The tension between them was palpable, electric. For a moment, he thought Moza might kiss him, but then another roar shook the shelter, and the moment passed. As the night wore on and the sounds of the jaguar ants faded, Caleb found himself drifting off to sleep, his last conscious thought of Moza's warmth beside him and the strange, wonderful turn his life had taken. In the morning, Caleb awoke to find Moza already up, greeting him with a dazzling smile that made his heart flutter. "Sleep well, spaceman?" she asked, handing him a fruit. "Better than I expected," he admitted, biting into the sweet flesh. "So what's the plan for today?" Moza's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Today, I'll show you the wonders of Eden." She tossed him what looked like a makeshift spear. "We need to work on your survival skills. Can't have you stumbling into any more lakes, can we?" As the day progressed, Moza guided Caleb through the basics of jungle survival. She taught him which plants were edible, how to find water, and basic tracking skills. Caleb felt both frustrated and fascinated. Every time he thought he had it figured out, he'd make a silly mistake. "No, not that one," Moza exclaimed, snatching a leaf from his hand. "Unless you want to be itching for days." Caleb sighed. "How do you keep all this straight?" "On my ship, I just had to press a button for food." Moza laughed, a sound Caleb was growing fond of. "Oh, you poor helpless human. Whatever would you do without me?" As she demonstrated the correct way to identify edible plants, Caleb found himself distracted by the graceful movements of her hands, the way sunlight played off her turquoise skin. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice the root in his path until it was too late. With a yelp, he tumbled forward, crashing into Moza and sending them both sprawling to the ground. They landed in a tangle of limbs, Caleb's face inches from Moza's. For a moment, time stood still. He was acutely aware of every point of contact between them, of the warmth of Moza's breath on his face, and the way her violet eyes seemed to draw him in. Moza broke the silence with a soft chuckle. "You know, if you wanted to get close to me, you could have just asked." Caleb felt his face flush. "I..." Moza laughed louder, gently pushing him off. "Relax, Caleb. I'm just teasing. Though I must say, your clumsiness is oddly endearing." As the day wore on, Caleb grew more comfortable in this alien environment. Moza's presence was a constant source of both comfort and distraction. Every smile and casual touch sent sparks through him. As night fell, they made their way back to the shelter. Moza insisted on showing Caleb how to properly secure the entrance against nocturnal predators. "Like this," she said, guiding his hands once more. Caleb couldn't help but notice how perfectly her smaller hands fit in his. With the shelter secured, they settled in for the night. The close quarters meant they were practically cuddling, a fact that Caleb was hyper-aware of. "Tell me more about the stars," Moza whispered in the darkness. "What's it like to float among them?" Caleb began to describe the beauty and terror of space, the feeling of weightlessness, the breathtaking view of alien worlds. As he spoke, he felt Moza snuggle closer, her head resting on his chest. "It sounds magical," she murmured sleepily. "It is," he replied softly. "But I'm starting to think there might be even more magical things right here on the ground." Moza lifted her head, her violet eyes meeting his in the dim light. There was an intensity in her gaze that made Caleb's breath catch. "Caleb," she whispered, her face inching closer to his. Heart pounding, he closed the distance, pressing his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but quickly deepened as Moza's arms wound around his neck. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Moza's eyes were shining. "Well," she said with a smirk, "I guess you're not completely hopeless after all." Caleb laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. "I have my moments." As they settled back down, Moza curled into Caleb's side. Despite the strangeness of his situation, stranded on an alien world, falling for a turquoise-skinned beauty, Caleb couldn't remember the last time he felt so content. Yet, as he drifted off to sleep, a small part of his mind wondered what else Moza wasn't telling him about her past, and what other surprises this mysterious planet might hold in store. The jungle's symphony of chirps and rustles roused Caleb from his slumber. Blinking, he felt momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The events of the previous day rushed back as he felt Moza's warm presence beside him. Turning his head, he found her still asleep, her blue skin glowing softly in the dim light filtering through the shelter's walls. Allowing himself a moment to admire her features, he marveled at the otherworldly beauty that had captivated him from the start. Moza's eyes fluttered open, catching Caleb in his admiration. A slow smile spread across her face. "Good morning, Starman. Enjoying the view?" Caleb felt heat rush to his cheeks, but didn't look away. "Can you blame me? I've traveled across galaxies, and I've never seen anything as breathtaking as you." Moza laughed, filling the small space. "Smooth talker, but flattery will only get you so far. We've got work to do if you're going to survive on Eden." As they emerged from the shelter, Caleb squinted against the bright sunlight. The jungle seemed even more vibrant than the day before, teeming with life and color. "First lesson of the day," Moza announced, pointing to a nearby tree with purple fruit hanging from its branches. "That's a zephyr plum. Delicious, but they have a tendency to, well, you'll see." Caleb approached the tree, reaching for one of the tempting fruits. As his fingers brushed its surface, the plum suddenly propelled itself into the air, bouncing off his forehead and landing several feet away. "What the?" Caleb sputtered, rubbing his forehead. Moza doubled over with laughter. "I told you zephyr plums are a bit temperamental. You have to approach them gently like this." She demonstrated with graceful, deliberate movements, plucking a fruit from the tree. Caleb watched, mesmerized by her fluid motions. "You make it look so easy." "Years of practice," Moza replied with a wink. "Now you try again, but remember, gentle." Caleb took a deep breath, mimicking her movements. To his surprise, he successfully retrieved a plum. "I did it. Not bad, Starman," Moza praised. "You might survive here yet." As the days passed, Caleb settled into a routine with Moza. She taught him the ways of Eden, which plants were safe to eat, how to navigate using the planet's twin suns, and the best methods for avoiding the more dangerous wildlife. One afternoon, while foraging for supplies, Caleb decided to impress Moza with his growing botanical knowledge. He spotted a cluster of vibrant blue flowers and called out proudly, "Hey Moza, look at these! They're stellar blossoms, right?" Moza's eyes widened as she turned. "Caleb, wait." But it was too late. As Caleb presented his makeshift bouquet, an intense burning sensation erupted across his hands. He yelped, dropping the flowers. "Those aren't stellar blossoms," Moza explained, rushing to his side. "They're fury ferns. Basically this planet's version of stinging nettles, but about 100 times worse." Caleb groaned, his hands already turning an angry red. "Great. Just great. So much for impressing you with my newfound jungle wisdom." Moza's expression softened as she gently took his hands in hers. "Oh, Caleb, you don't need to impress me." Leading him to a nearby stream, she crushed some leaves into a paste and applied it to his burning skin. The cool relief was immediate, but Caleb found himself more focused on the tenderness of Moza's touch. "There," she said softly. "Better?" Caleb nodded, unable to find his voice for a moment. "Thanks. I guess I still have a lot to learn." Moza's violet eyes met his, a mix of amusement and something deeper shining in their depths. "We all do, Caleb. That's what makes life interesting." As the weeks went by, Caleb grew more attuned to Eden's rhythms. He no longer stumbled through the underbrush, but moved with increasing confidence. Yet for all his progress, Moza remained an enigma. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she surprised him by suggesting they dance. "It's a tradition on my world," she explained. "A way to connect with the planet's energy." "I'm not much of a dancer," Caleb admitted sheepishly. "Neither was I once," Moza said, extending her hand. "Let me show you." As Caleb got to his feet, the jungle around them seemed to come alive with sound. A haunting melody rose from the vegetation, punctuated by rhythmic beats that pulsed through the ground itself. "The planet makes music?" Caleb asked, struck. Moza nodded, her eyes gleaming in the firelight. "Everything here is connected. You just have to learn how to listen." She began to move, swaying in perfect harmony with the alien rhythm. Caleb watched entranced as the night deepened and the jungle's music enveloped them, drawing them closer together in a dance that felt like it transcended the very stars. The following day dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the canopy of leaves above. Caleb awoke to the soft sounds of the jungle, birds chirping and the distant rustle of creatures stirring in the underbrush. He felt a renewed sense of purpose as he recalled the enchanting dance from the night before, the way Moza's body had moved in harmony with the music of the jungle. After a quick breakfast of fruit and nuts gathered from the forest, he found Moza by the stream, her turquoise skin glistening with morning dew. She was humming softly, a melody that felt both familiar and foreign. As he approached, she turned, her eyes lighting up with delight. "Good morning, Starman. Ready for another day of adventure?" she asked, her smile infectious. "Absolutely," Caleb replied, feeling invigorated by her energy. "What do you have in store for me today?" Moza considered for a moment, her brow furrowing slightly. "Today, I want to show you something special. It's a place not far from here, a hidden grove filled with lumina trees. Their blossoms light up the night like stars." "Sounds incredible," Caleb exclaimed. "Lead the way." As they journeyed deeper into the jungle, Caleb found himself more at ease in this vibrant world. They navigated through thick foliage, over tangled roots, and around streams, Moza effortlessly guiding him through the terrain. "Have you ever thought about what lies beyond Eden?" Caleb asked as they walked, curiosity getting the better of him. Moza paused, her expression shifting to something more contemplative. "Sometimes, but my past is complicated. I was drawn here, seeking a place to escape. This jungle became my sanctuary." Caleb felt a pang of sympathy. "I get that. I'm not just here on a routine mission. I wanted to break free from the constraints of my life back on Earth." It felt suffocating. Moza nodded, understanding flashing in her violet eyes. "We all have our reasons for seeking refuge. But this place, it taught me resilience, and in turn, I learned to appreciate the beauty in solitude. As they continued, Caleb felt a growing desire to know more about Moza's story, but he sensed it was a topic she wasn't ready to delve into. Instead, he focused on the sights around them. Birds with iridescent feathers flitted between branches, and colorful insects buzzed in the warm air. They finally arrived at the grove, and Caleb gasped in awe. Towering lumina trees stood like sentinels, their trunks wide and gnarled, covered in vibrant green moss. But it was the blossoms that took his breath away. Delicate petals in shades of pink, blue, and violet clustered high above, glowing faintly even in the daylight. Wow, Caleb breathed, stepping closer. This is amazing. Moza smiled, a look of pride lighting her face. And wait until nightfall. The real magic happens then. Caleb spent the day exploring the grove, helping Moza gather fallen blossoms and learning about the unique flora and fauna that thrived in this hidden paradise. They laughed and joked, and Caleb felt a growing connection between them, something deeper than mere friendship. As dusk approached, Caleb noticed the sky transitioning into shades of orange and purple. The grove began to change, the air thick with anticipation. "Is it time?" he asked, glancing at Moza. "Almost," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just wait." As the last light of day faded, the first stars began to twinkle in the sky above. The lumina trees responded, their blossoms illuminating one by one, casting a soft, ethereal glow throughout the grove. Caleb's heart raced. "This is incredible," he exclaimed, watching as the trees transformed into a sea of light. Moza's laughter echoed around them. "Isn't it? It's like stepping into a dream." They wandered through the grove, surrounded by the soft glow of the flowers. Caleb felt as though they were walking among the stars, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was something he would carry with him forever. "Can I tell you something?" Caleb asked suddenly, feeling bold in the enchanting atmosphere. "Of course," Moza replied, turning to face him, curiosity in her eyes. "I've never felt this way before, so connected to someone, so alive. Being here with you, it feels like magic." Moza's expression softened, and for a moment, Caleb thought she might respond with something equally profound. But then she glanced away, focusing on a cluster of glowing blossoms. "It's easy to feel magic here," she said softly. "But you have to remember, it's fleeting, like the light from these trees. They shine bright, but only for a short time." Caleb's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Moza turned back to him, her eyes shimmering with unshed emotion. I don't want you to get too attached. This place, it can be a beautiful illusion." Before he could respond, a loud rustling from the underbrush startled them. Caleb instinctively stepped closer to Moza, his protective instincts kicking in. "What was that?" he asked, scanning the darkness beyond the grove. "Probably just a small creature," Moza reassured him, though there was a hint of tension in her voice. But then the rustling grew louder, accompanied by a low growl that sent chills down Caleb's spine. "Stay close," Moza whispered, her demeanor shifting as she readied herself for whatever might emerge. A large creature burst from the foliage, a sleek, feline form with deep emerald eyes, its fur glistening like the stars above. It prowled into the grove, its presence both mesmerizing and intimidating. "Is that a jaguar ant?" Caleb asked, his heart racing. Moza shook her head, relief flooding her features. "No, this is a Mistral cat. They're usually harmless, but they can be curious." The cat approached, its gaze fixed on Caleb with an almost intelligent curiosity. He held his breath, unsure of how to react. To his surprise, the creature stopped a few feet away, sniffing the air. "Don't move," Moza advised, her voice low and calm. "Just let it be." Caleb nodded, his heart pounding as the Mistral cat circled him, its soft fur brushing against his leg. He couldn't help but reach down cautiously, extending a hand. The cat paused, then leaned into his touch, purring softly. "Wow," Caleb murmured, enchanted. "This is incredible." Moza smiled, the tension easing from her shoulders. "You have a way with animals." As they stood together, The Mistral cats settled at their feet, and the grove around them shimmered with the gentle glow of the Lumina trees. In that moment, Caleb felt the magic of Eden enveloping them, a sense of peace washing over him. Maybe it's not just an illusion after all, he said quietly, looking at Moza. She met his gaze, her expression thoughtful. Maybe. But remember, everything comes with a cost. You'll need to decide what you're willing to sacrifice for this magic. Caleb opened his mouth to respond, but before he could find the words, the Mistral cat suddenly stood, its ears pricked as it turned back to the jungle. It senses something, Moza said, her voice taut with concern. Should we go? Caleb asked, instinctively stepping closer to her. No, she replied, her eyes narrowing. We should stay put. Whatever it is, it's best not to provoke it. As they waited, the tension in the air thickened. The distant rustle returned, more pronounced this time, and Caleb's heart raced as shadows shifted at the edge of the grove. He felt Moza's hand brush against his, and the warmth of her touch steadied him. Whatever happens, I'm here, she whispered. With that, they both turned their attention to the darkness beyond, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in this strange, beautiful world. The air crackled with tension as Caleb and Moza stood together, the soft glow of the Lumina trees illuminating their faces. The rustling grew louder, and Caleb could see movement at the edge of the grove, a dark shape slinking through the underbrush. What do you think it is? He whispered, glancing at Moza, whose eyes remained focused on the shifting shadows. I can't tell, she replied, her voice steady but her gaze sharp. But we need to be ready for anything. Caleb's heart raced as the shape emerged fully into the light. It was a creature unlike anything he'd seen. A sleek, four-legged beast with a long, sinewy body and shimmering fur that seemed to change color in the soft glow of the Lumina trees. Its eyes were bright, almost glowing, and it scanned the grove with a predatory intensity. Is that a predator? Caleb asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Moza nodded slowly. Yes, but it's not the jaguar ant. This is a Sylph Cat. They're stealthy and curious, but usually avoid confrontation unless provoked. As if sensing their gaze, the Sylph Cat turned its attention to them, its ears twitching. Caleb held his breath, ready to react if needed. But instead of charging, the creature approached cautiously, its movements fluid and graceful. Stay calm, Moza murmured, her hand brushing against Caleb's once more. Let it come to us. To Caleb's surprise, the Sylph Cat stopped a few feet away, its head tilted slightly, as if assessing them. He felt an unexpected sense of connection, as if the creature was trying to communicate. Do you think it's friendly? He asked, watching as the cat flicked its tail back and forth. Let's hope so, Moza replied, a hint of a smile creeping onto her lips. But keep your distance, just in case. Caleb took a cautious step forward, heart pounding. The Sylph Cat lowered its head, sniffing the ground and then the air. In a sudden burst of courage, he reached out a hand, palm up, hoping to appear non-threatening. To his amazement, the Sylph Cat stepped closer, its nose brushing against Caleb's fingers. The creature let out a soft, vibrating purr that echoed through the grove, and a sense of calm washed over him. See, Moza whispered, her voice filled with awe. You have a way with them. Caleb couldn't help but smile. I guess I do. Maybe it's the magic of Eden. Just then, the Sylph Cat darted away into the shadows, its form blending seamlessly with the darkness. Caleb felt a pang of disappointment as the connection broke. Where did it go? He asked, scanning the treeline. Probably just checking for danger, Moza replied, her expression thoughtful. They're known for their speed and stealth. Suddenly, the tranquility was shattered by a deep, resonant growl from the jungle, echoing through the grove. The air felt charged with tension, and Caleb instinctively stepped closer to Moza, seeking her presence as reassurance. What was that? He asked, his voice low. Something larger, perhaps a jaguar ant, Moza said, her eyes widening. We should head back to the shelter. It's getting dangerous out here. Caleb nodded, feeling the urgency of her words. They turned and made their way back through the grove, the soft glow of the lumina trees fading as they moved deeper into the jungle. The sounds of the jungle shifted, a chorus of rustling leaves and distant calls weaving a tapestry of uncertainty around them. As they navigated the underbrush, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The vibrant colors of the jungle seemed to dim, shadows deepening in the twilight. He glanced back, half expecting to see the Sylph Cat trailing behind, but there was nothing. "Do you ever feel like this place has a mind of its own?" he asked, trying to lighten the mood despite the growing unease. Moza chuckled softly. "All the time, Eden has a way of shifting and changing. It's both beautiful and unpredictable." They finally reached the shelter, and Moza quickly secured the entrance, her movements efficient and practiced. As she finished, Caleb couldn't help but admire her strength and grace, even in the face of danger. "Do you think it's safe now?" he asked, leaning against the sturdy door. "For the moment," Moza replied, her expression serious. "But we need to stay alert. The night is when the predators come alive." Caleb nodded, the weight of her words settling in. They settled down inside the shelter, the walls woven from vines and leaves providing a sense of safety. The glow from the lumina trees filtered through the entrance, casting a soft light on their faces. "What do we do now?" Caleb asked, trying to distract himself from the ominous sounds outside. "Now we wait," Moza said, pulling a few fruits from their supplies. "And we talk. It's good to share stories, especially in a time like this." Caleb took the fruit, biting into the sweet flesh as he settled beside her. "What do you want to know?" "Tell me about Earth," Moza said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "What is it like to live among the stars?" As Caleb spoke of his home, its cities, its technology, and the vast expanse of space, Moza listened intently, her gaze fixed on him. He shared stories of Mars colonies, the thrill of space travel, and the challenges humanity faced in exploring the cosmos. "And what about you?" he asked, eager to turn the conversation back to her. "What's your story? How did you end up here in Eden?" Moza hesitated, a flicker of something, fear perhaps, crossing her face. "I told you it's complicated. I was on a different path, searching for purpose. Eden called to me in a way I can't explain." Caleb leaned closer, sensing her reluctance, but also her need to share. "You can trust me, Moza. I won't judge you." She took a deep breath, the glow from the trees casting a soft light across her features. "I was once part of a colony, a community that thrived among the stars. But I felt trapped, constrained by expectations and rules. I needed to find myself, to break free." Caleb could see the pain in her eyes, and it resonated deeply with his own struggles. "And you found that here?" "Yes," she whispered. "But it's not without its own challenges. I've had to learn to survive alone, and sometimes that loneliness can be overwhelming." "I can't imagine," Caleb said softly. "But you're not alone anymore. You have me." Moza's gaze met his, a warmth spreading between them. "Thank you, Caleb. It means more than you know." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the jungle swirling around them. Caleb felt a deep sense of connection, not just to Moza, but to the world around them, a feeling of belonging that he had longed for. But the moment was shattered by a low, throaty growl that echoed from the depths of the jungle, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. "Get ready," Moza whispered, her voice tense. "Whatever it is, we need to be prepared." Caleb's heart raced as he scrambled to his feet, adrenaline coursing through him. They exchanged determined glances, bracing themselves for whatever danger lurked outside their shelter. The growls grew louder, and shadows moved just beyond the entrance. Caleb gripped a makeshift spear, his mind racing with possibilities. Would they face a jaguar ant or something worse? As the first rays of moonlight filtered through the trees, illuminating the darkness, Caleb and Moza prepared to confront the unknown together, their bond strengthened by the trials they faced.